I've always said, man, like the biggest disconnect in our community is women respecting women. You know, I've been pushing some topics because um the I believe the biggest obstacle we got to overcome on social media per se is how women bully each other.
Right.
Because the men are working together. The men that solve problems, they in the mix.
Right.
That's what we doing right now. You know what I'm saying? It's late for you, it's late for me, and we doing the extra work, the extra credit to make this you know what I'm saying, to make this mission that we both believe in work.
Mm-hmm.
So the right considerations have already been considered.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just up to us to inspire as we go. You know what I'm saying? So um leaving it on that note it's like it's the best thing that we could do.
Right.
It really
Right.
is, because like we can't make nobody feel what we understand, you
Right.
know. And so there's gonna always be some people that's gonna be on the opposition side of things. It
Of
ain't
course.
my job to convince them, and I don't particularly care either, you know.
Right. Right. Right.
So uh it's refreshing when you get um a woman that's, you know what I'm saying, on her journey to healing, and you know what I'm saying, really committed to what it takes to be the best version of themselves. Um we got to support that,
Right. Right. Right.
and we have to be the protectors of that too,
Right.
because they don't get it. um because I've seen the bullying that women submit each other's to, you know what I'm saying, for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
I have a problem with that, but it's going to take women to break it, you know
Right.
what I'm saying, to stop tone policing each other,
Mm-hmm.
to all of this is part of the topic that we got in such short notice, is the slave mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Because the slave mindset, if I can monologue about that, you know what I'm saying, before we get into, you know what I'm saying, what we want to discuss about this, is being a slave to your emotions.
Right.
Like the slave mindset is not applying logic. It's about leaning on your emotions to justify everything that you think needs to be said.
Right.
It's about not understanding that you're supposed to speak when spoken to, and
Mm-hmm.
not give away the information that needs to be heard under the right circumstances. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I can tell you, we can't have this conversation like watching a basketball game and then expecting you to absorb every single thing. You know what I'm saying,
Right.
that needs to be absorbed.
Right.
It takes everything being quiet around you, being honest, listen to the conversation, listening to the metrics, examining history, applying it to the present, and thinking about like how do these two things in an algebraic equation amount to a better outcome in the future. And that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't happen without taking accountability. Doesn't happen without disciplined people having the conversation, because undisciplined people are going to make it difficult. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I don't, I haven't ran into, I know some women
Mm-hmm.
that can have the conversation, but they do better with it in private. They
Mm-hmm.
can't do it unilaterally, like just turn the camera on and them start talking, soliciting feedback from the female population that
Mm-hmm.
really reflects the behavior that they're discussing, or the behavior that they probably have shared and experienced, without some sort of conversation that involves conflict associated with a perceived level of negligence and negative judgment. There's
Mm-hmm.
always judgment, but it's positive judgment, unhealthy judgment, and just judgment in general. You know what I'm saying? Like wherever
Right.
you want to put it. Because general judgment is like we both see that the sky is blue, right?
Right.
The unhealthy judgment is saying that somebody's dumb because they said that the sky was blue instead of, you know what I'm saying, some other type of way, just trying to shame, insults, and guilt their way through it, you know?
Right.
But if we can't agree on the simple things, how are we going to talk about the complex topics?
You're not going to be able to talk about the complex
Yep.
topics. Not at all.
And
You
so
know.
that's
So yeah.
and so
Yeah.
that's where in terms of like in concluding the monologue, of what I'm saying is that the slave mindset is part disavowing yourself and boxing in and compartmentalizing where your emotions are applicable,
Mm-hmm.
and then understanding that some of the stuff got to get left outside if you care about a solution.
Right. Absolutely. So that's the whole thing. That's a great beginning. That's a great intro. When we start talking about the slave mind,
Let me go ahead and hit my applause real quick.
right?
Because I
When
was spitting. I was spitting. I was
you were
spitting.
spitting, factual.
Yeah.
Like I said, when you talk about the slave mind, and we talk about the genesis of that, right? The beginning of the slave mind. What does it mean to be African American or a black person in America, right? And the makeup of that, what does that come from?
Yeah.
We have to ask ourselves those questions. What is a Negro? What is an African American? What is a black American? A black person in America. What is that? Where does that mental makeup come from? Where do the ideologies come from? Where do the ideas come from? Where does the culture come from? We have to understand that. And so the reason why, I wanted to speak on this today is because, like I said, I've been reading that book, Black Bourgeoisie.
Yeah.
And Brooklyn St. Michael, he's been breaking it down on his YouTube channel. And it's been just amazing to watch him break the book down and to see where everything came from. So he got to this chapter that I pretty much just kind of studied. And this chapter was about how did low level learners become the top of Black American culture. How did they become those individuals that we look up to, right? So he starts off in this book, he starts off saying, okay, well, you have two classes of Black people in America, okay? Two different mindsets. So one mindset is of the mulattoes, which they took their mindset after the aristocracy, right?
Yep.
And what comes with that is there comes a high level of discipline with that. And we're not going to give white people that credit for saying, okay, it's their aristocracy. They got that from us, inevitably. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
we showed them that across the damn pond. You know what I'm saying? So they
Mhm.
got that from us. But what we will say is that the mulatto blacks got their ideology and their ideas and their culture from aristocracy. So they took it from the highest level of white people, because we have to understand that white people have levels too. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't realize that, but white people have levels too. And if you read the books, White Cargo or White Trash, you read those books, you'll see that white people have levels. Okay, so they took that
Here,
one
here-
wonderful book right there.
yeah.
It's like,
Here's the book, folks.
yeah,
Black
so
bourgeoisie. You know what I'm saying?
definitely. So like I told Vic earlier, this book, I think paperback is $12, $12 to $15 on Amazon. Definitely purchase it. It was written in 1957 by Franklin Frazier. And when I say this book is awesome, it is awesome because the same things that were going on in 1957 apply to today in 2024. But getting back to what I was saying.
Yep.
So basically, those mulattoes that took that culture of the aristocracy, which is the highest white culture at that time, they took the discipline from that. So when I say discipline, I mean sexual discipline was number one.
Saw that.
You have to be sexually disciplined. You had to be sexually disciplined in the aristocracy. So that's one thing. You have to also be disciplined when it comes to working. You have to be disciplined when it comes to your finances. You have to be disciplined when it comes to your family. You have to be disciplined when it comes to the culture overall. You have to be disciplined completely overall in that aristocracy culture. So the second culture you have is the slave culture. So these were the people who made up their ideology and their logic and their culture from a place of oppression. Okay? That can't be where we're at. That can't be where we're at. Reason being is because that place is a very dangerous place to be. You know what I'm saying? When you're thinking from a place of oppression, I ask this question to a lot of people. if you have to learn calculus, can you learn calculus better in a war zone, or can you learn calculus better in a classroom settings? What would you say, Vic?
Oh, definitely in a classroom setting.
In a classroom setting, because reason being is because if you're learning calculus in a war zone, then you're constantly worried about missiles, you're constantly worried about artillery, you're constantly worried about fire,
Your personal
or
safety.
yeah,
Yep.
your personal safety. So the thing is that that's the same thing that happened to slaves, our ancestors, that happened to slaves. They were making a culture to kind of guide them through or make them comfortable with the oppression that they were going through.
Right.
So, with that being said, we can't base our culture off of people who were trying to learn calculus in a fucking war zone. We can't base our culture on that. So, our culture now, today in 2024, has to dramatically change. So I'm gonna go back into the book and tell you how all these things changed. So after slavery, you still had the mulatto culture, and these mulattoes, like I said, they had the aristocracy culture intertwined into their culture. That was the mindset of them. And like I said, the other people that you had the slaves, who were the field hands, who completely designed their culture out of oppression, and that culture was a lot less disciplined, a lot less disciplined. You know what I'm saying? And reason being is because it was kind of forced on them to be a lot less disciplined, because if you were too disciplined, you would have broken out of slavery a long time ago. But if you're undisciplined, you're going to remain in slavery. So
Man, come on now.
so
Come
what
on.
happened? Okay, yeah, and you got some rules to that. So when I say this stuff, you bring up your rules on here. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, you have this slave culture right here. This slave culture was not sexually disciplined because they couldn't be. They weren't disciplined financially. They weren't disciplined in any way mentally. Because they didn't know whether they were going to be with their family today or tomorrow. They didn't know what the hell was going to happen, because they saw, their family members being sold off to different plantations and things like this. So there was no consistency. So the thing is that if you don't have any consistency or any guaranteed consistency, you cannot have any discipline in that culture. So the thing is that after slavery, like I said, the mulattoes, what they did is they stayed away from the slave mentality people, or we'll say the field hands. Now they got a bad rap for that, because this is where all the brown bag, shit came in, and saying you have to be a certain complexion to be a part of this society and all these things. So they get a bad rap for that, which is understandably so. You should get a bad rap for that. But what they were doing is they were keeping themselves and their family away from the individuals, the black individuals, our ancestors that had that slave mentality and didn't have that aristocracy mentality, because they knew if they intermingle and intertwine with the people that were non-disciplined, their shit would break apart. They knew that, so they stayed away from it. So what eventually happened is, like I said, after slavery, the mulattoes kind of wanted to be in white society, but you and I both know that wasn't going to be. If you wasn't 100% white, you're not going to be in white society. So what happened is they got lumped into society with the field hands. So there's one quote that he quoted in that book where he said, well, it was a mulatto girl, and she was asked about going to school with field hands, basically. And she said, well, if they're going to put me with the field hands, if they're going to put me with the niggas, I might as well act like a nigga.
Yeah.
She said that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So she was letting them people know, hey, like, you're not even respecting me as a highly intelligent individual with discipline. So at this point, if you're going to if you're going to lump me in that group with them people just because I'm the same complexion, then fuck it. I might as well become, undisciplined just like them. So that happened. That happened. So that broke a little bit of, well, we'll say a lot of that aristocracy culture. That broke a lot of that because they lumped all black people into one people. this is the part in the book that I really I dug, man, because I was like, yo, that's real shit. And Vic, you said this before. You said it before. You said that everybody ain't gonna make it.
You can't.
Everybody
It
ain't
ain't
gonna
enough
make it.
room. It ain't enough
Right,
room.
right. So the thing is that we can't lump all black people into one bowl and say that we are all one. That's not going to happen. It that didn't happen in Africa. We were tribes over
And we
there.
talking about a book that was written in 1957.
Right.
And when they had the same problems that we talking about right now, 60 some years removed,
Right.
that they identified before. And that's just the time that he took to document it. So
Right.
how long was it in existence before it got to that point? You know what I'm saying? So
Exactly.
when you start playing it back and then just putting the formula of time involved, because we're not even talking about time in general. Because like even what you're saying it right now, you would swear that the book was written like last week.
Right.
And then to add more context to it is that the books that I've written and in which the context in which I've written them, I hadn't even heard of these other books. And I'm glad, because it validates that we got the same problems right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
so like writing books is a lot like doing music. In the context of you're easily influenced by what you read,
Right.
or what you listen to in terms of music. Like if I'm listening to some Al Green, or let's just say I was putting a song together or something, right? If I was putting a song together, my concept for the song might be influenced by what I'm consuming. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm listening to some rock music, I'm gonna have some remnants of what I'm hearing. That's gonna go into my art.
Right. Of course.
If I'm writing books and I'm trying to complete a chapter, I'm trying to make a point, and then if I wanted to write my book based off of somebody else's content, it'll almost look like plagiarism. But like without knowing that this book even existed, even if I heard the title but not having read the chapters, the pages, the context, the subject matter, and whatever, and I've written 5-6 chapters on the same topics about the low-level learners being separated from the leaders.
Yes.
And the part, like when one of the videos you sent me from to earlier today, talking about the people that was considered to be part of the peasant class that was 3rd, 4th generation removed from slavery, that kind of like that was singing and dancing and, you know what I'm saying, and doing frivolous finances to purchase stuff to keep up with the Joneses and everything. I listened to all this stuff very heavily.
Right.
Not much has changed. You know what I'm saying? Like, if anything, it's just more ingrained. It sounds foreign to think with a disciplined mindset. And these things you don't understand until you're responsible for other people, when you want better for them, based on what you learn. And we've been unlearning a whole lot of stuff. And there was a long time where even if you unlearned it, you didn't have the resources to overcome it.
Right.
And so we're a victim of circumstance to a degree too, but we're not residing in victimhood. We just kind of like capturing, like, yo, this is the weight of the obstacles that we've really had to overcome. You know what I'm saying? And by virtue of the fact that we've never even met in person, but we see the same context, we have the same problems, you know what I'm saying, the same perception of it. Imagine what they was dealing with, because like the other segment of one of the in that book was the 1950s, in terms of like trading away, you know what I'm saying, the academia esteem for just trying to fit in with bougie white people, you know what I'm saying, to be accepted by them. And this was long before Dr. King. This was long before Malcolm X. This was long before the inception of the Black Panther Party movement. This was long before you know, like the optics of the entertainers and athletes who get down with what we're talking about too. So this was a long-standing problem probably 3-4 decades before it was actually documented. You know what
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm saying? And I had a friend of mine hit me up, and she sent me a screenshot, and I'm gonna dig it up in a little bit, and I'm gonna put it on the screen of of a man that was like in 1865,
Mm-hmm.
post Reconstruction, during the Reconstruction period of post Civil War and
Mm-hmm.
all of that stuff. Black man saying he had like 17 kids and getting paid like $17.36 a month.
Yeah.
It was sub $20, you know what I'm saying? And talking about the influence of the government that was, you know what I'm saying, pressing upon them to alienate uh, the masculinity of a black man's household
Mm-hmm.
then. And then watching the two videos you sent me about the black bourgeoisie, where the guy was talking about in the 50s how it subjugated and emasculated the man and put him in the seat where he was doing the feminine role in the house.
Right.
Um, this didn't just happen, and it kind of goes back
No.
to what I was saying before. This is why we got a lot of feminine black men, or feminine black men, in terms of the fact that they was raised by their grandmothers
Mm-hmm.
first. Then later on, finding women that was dominant that reminded them of their grandmothers. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because the grandmother became the example of the type of woman that you need to be with for your house to be efficient, right?
Right. Right. Mm-hmm.
And we've been going against our nature for a very long time. You know what I'm
Long
saying?
time.
Because of that.
Right. Long time.
And which brings me to this. Rather than just try to just outright combat it and say you're doing it wrong on this side.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've been raised a certain type of way, it's not fair to say that.
Right.
If you've been conditioned, you know what I'm saying, and you haven't been exposed to certain information that makes you more receptive to say, hey man, I need to do it differently or teach differently. But you can't teach something you never experienced, right?
Right.
So without putting that undue pressure on that demographic of men and women that was raised underneath a matriarchal mindset, you still got patriarchal black men that's raised like us, you know what I'm saying, that had fathers in the
Mm-hmm.
household.
Mm-hmm.
And even if the mother was the one running the show, that father figure changes the dynamic of how you conduct yourself and your mannerisms.
Absolutely.
And if you never seen your father get upset, you never seen how he mishandled the situation, then you're gonna have a hard time relating to other people who didn't grow up the same way. But
Right.
they're at this point, genetically speaking and behaviorally speaking, would you disagree that there's a matriarchal black man and woman and then a patriarchal black man and woman?
Yeah, it's both of them. You do have both of them. There's a dynamic, matriarchal dynamic and a patriarchal dynamic, no doubt. You got both of them,
Yeah.
and it does speak about it, in that book, definitely. So, going kind of back to what was being talked about, in that book, and like I said, the what we call the black elite at that time and
Yeah.
what they were basing their culture from, and the lower level elite, well, the lower level black people,
Yeah.
and we just have to be honest with
Let's
ourselves,
just be honest about it. Yeah.
because we could say, well, Cav, how you gonna say lower level, man? Well, when you've been
Well, they wrote it down in 1957, so we're not
right.
saying nothing that we had.
Right. We're not saying nothing that we don't know. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, you had an upper level echelon, upper echelon black race of people, and you had a lower level. You had one that prided themselves on education, sexual discipline, and discipline just overall. And you had one that did not have the respect for any of those things. So what happened later on in time is those lower level learners, at that time, the ones who were freed slaves, they got the opportunity to be educated. So once they become educated, they become what he calls in this book the new black bourgeoisie. So it's no longer exclusive to mulattoes. Now you start to get the darker skin black bourgeoisie. You feel what I'm saying?
Okay, so like the new black bourgeoisie at this point is where we at right now,
This is
right?
where we're at right now. This is where we're at right
Okay.
now.
So do me a favor.
Well, no, it's not. It's not really where I got to keep going because it's not
Okay,
really
go
where
ahead,
we're
go
at
ahead.
right now.
All right.
Okay, so the new black bourgeoisie comes in, and the new black bourgeoisie comes in with, we respect the aristocracy attitude, the aristocracy culture, but because we're the field hands, and because we come from the slave mind, we're going to mix the elite with the slave mind. And so you saw that. That's where that came from. So he goes into grave detail, and he talks about the things that the lower slave mind, what they appreciate, right? They appreciate song, they appreciate dance, they appreciate entertainment, they appreciate sport. Okay. These are things that the mulatto class did not appreciate. They didn't give a shit about any of that stuff. They didn't give a shit about entertainment, didn't give a damn about sport, didn't give a damn about singing, song, any of that. They didn't give a damn about any of that. It was just all discipline, period. All
Yeah.
discipline. It's all education. It's all sexual discipline. It's all financial discipline. It's all that. So, what happens with the new black bourgeoisie is they intermingle and mix the two cultures together. So it's no longer that high level that it once was when the mulattoes held it. So now we've kind of dumbed it down a little bit. You understand what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
The nice
So,
way of saying it.
right. The nice way of saying we've kind of dumbed it down a little bit. The next step that it goes to from there is it goes to this even newer black bourgeoisie that's all about money. It ain't about anything but finances.
Now,
It's
now put a pin right there.
mm-hmm,
Relate what you just said from 1957
right.
to where we are in present day.
We are now the third black bourgeoisie. It's all about money. It's all about money. So it doesn't matter. The other disciplines that were there from the first dynasty, the disciplines that were there from the first dynasty are no longer there. The disciplines there that they designed and made for themselves and their families, they're no longer there. Now we are at a point where if you got $1 million in the fucking bank, it don't matter how fucking stupid you act.
That's good
You
enough.
you are the epitome. You are the top. You are the upper echelon. You are the man or you are the woman, and people look up to you. That is where we are now. This is why you have a Nick Cannon who's worth millions of dollars that have 10 baby mamas.
Mm-hmm.
If you take that back to first dynasty greatness, they're looking at Nick Cannon like, nigga, who are you?
What are you doing?
What are you doing? You're just spreading your seed amongst women like that? Are you fucking crazy?
Right.
That's what they're doing. That's what they're saying. And amongst all the rest of the millionaires doing the same thing that Nick Cannon's doing, not ragging all the way on Nick Cannon like some of the stuff that Nick Cannon does, but this is one of the
We
things,
talk about behavior at this
right?
point.
The behavior is disgusting. It's
Yeah.
completely disgusting because in no way, shape, or form, Nick, can, even if you got $1 million, can you see all 10 of your kids, support your kids emotionally, 10 of them in a day? In no way, shape, or form can you do that. So the thing is that because we know there's no way, shape, or form do you have the time to do that while also maintaining your monetary status. Because I don't know if people know, but being a millionaire is not an easy job. I've talked to, 2 or 3 millionaires. That's not an easy task. It's not like, oh, I made this million, I could kind of just sit back and retire. No, dude, you got to maintain that shit. So you don't have time to take care of any kids emotionally. You
You gotta
have
go,
you
get the money.
right. You just get the money. So you're taking care of kids financially. So like I said, that's the third, part of the black bourgeoisie. That part that completely took out the aristocracy rules and completely took out the discipline, completely took out the respect and the honor. They completely took it out, and now we're here. We're okay. Sexy Red, she's worth $10 million. What woman can you tell that Sexy Red ain't shit? You can't tell them that she ain't shit because they gonna say, well, she got money up to her ear, homeboy. What you got?
She the standard now.
She's the standard now. Meg the Stallion. Oh, she's worth $50 million, bro. What can you say about Meg the Stallion, bro? You ain't got shit. You ain't even got $1 million in the bank. What can you say about Meg the Stallion? So at the end of the day, that's the way they look at things now. Black people, and my boy Wabu Shabazz says it. I'll tag him in here because I know he'll want to hear me say this. It comes out of his mouth all the time. My boy Wabu Shabazz, he says, Black people have made money our God.
Mhm.
That is our God. Period. You can do anything you want to Black people as long as you pay us well enough.
As long as you pay us enough, cut the check.
Cut the check. I
Cut.
will sacrifice. There are people out here that will sacrifice 1.5 million 1.5 million kids' educations to make $100,000 a year.
Yep.
They'll do it. They do it every day.
Just to say they make 6 figures.
Just to say they make 6 figures, bro. They do it every day. And that's why and you know what? Powerful white men. Notice how I said that. I don't say white man because when you say white man, you're lumping all of them together.
Yeah.
And they're not all the same.
Yeah, we talking about the ones with influence.
The ones with influence and true power. Those powerful white men. Now what you're seeing them do is they will purposely pick a Black person to do something in a high position because they know if they give them the right damn salary, they can get that white agenda passed. They can get that white superiority agenda passed through the guise of a Black face.
Yep.
They can do it with no problem and no struggle.
Because they'll do
They
it for
can
the
do
money.
it. They'll do it for the money. They know Black people would do anything for the fucking money. We would do anything for the fucking money.
And cheaply.
Cheap, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And have a committed person in there with them in the mix too, because and then parade it around like they friends.
Right.
Prestige.
And like I said, I've seen this too many times in politics. I've seen it in school administration. I've seen it in positions of power when it comes to local politics. I've seen it in national politics. I've seen it in so many different places, man, in positions of power where you could just pay a Black person X amount of dollars and they are going to pass this agenda like it's nothing.
Like they made it.
Right. Like they made it. And
Like they created it.
Right. And they don't have any conscience. They don't have any conscience to it because they say, well, you know what? I'm living over here in white suburbia in a $500,000 house, living great. I got a Benz, I got a BMW, I got the new Tesla truck. You know what I'm saying?
In a gated community.
I'm in a gated community. I got it going on. What the fuck can you tell me? But what you're not looking at is who have you sacrificed for that? Who have you sacrificed for those gains? You know what I'm saying? And that's where I think the Black bourgeoisie, I think they get a bad rap because a lot of the Black bourgeoisie are highly successful people that do such things to be highly successful. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm starting to figure out is how they think about other Black people. I'm up here. I'm well educated. I have it going on here. Those people down there, fuck them because they're low level learners. And all of them are low level learners. They don't account for the children or young people that aren't low level learners, but they happen to live in the projects.
Mm-hmm.
There's a genius there. There's a Jay-Z there.
Yep.
That's why we have so much respect for Jay-Z is because you look at where Jay-Z was and what he came up in, he's not supposed to make it out.
No.
He's damn sure not supposed to become a billionaire.
No.
LeBron James, he's not supposed to make it out. He's damn sure not supposed to become a millionaire because those people at those levels are forgotten about. Those people are just chattel, to the higher ups is what that is. Told by, I want to say Sean Hunter a long time ago. Well, not even a long time ago. I want to say 2 years ago when Wabu interviewed him. He said, Kavik, you're looking for politicians, black politicians, to fix violence and crime issues in Roanoke, Virginia, or he said even in the nation for that matter. And he said, you realize how many people get paid from those issues? He said, why the fuck would they fix them?
Why? It's
Why?
it's a business model.
It's a business model.
It's proven to work because we got willing participants.
Right. Slave
It
mind. That's the slave mind right there.
it's
Willing
slave mind.
participants.
That's willing participants in our own destruction. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, traditionally, when we talk about slave mindset,
pull your mic to you. Pull your mic to you a little bit.
Traditionally, when we talk about slave mindset, it's real easy to just equate it to the men or the women that we would consider to be coons.
Right.
And then, but we saddle that designation on entertainers and athletes.
Right. Yes.
And I don't like that.
No.
I think we have to work with the people that I think the first coons, I think there's levels to coonery.
Right.
Excuse me. And I think the first level is the people that participate in self-inflicted damage, self-inflicted behavior.
Absolutely.
Then you got, after that, a second tier would be people that align themselves with folks that want to destroy us, help us destroy ourselves. And then you got the people that just overtly just say, fuck them niggas.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, fuck the rich, fuck the poor. It's about me.
Right. Exactly.
Because you got supporters, you got people on the fence that can be easily swayed.
Yeah.
And then you got people that's got equity in the outcome for their own personal gain.
For their own personal gain, right, bro? You broke that down. That's genius level shit.
Hold on, let me hit that. Let me get my applause.
Get your applause going on, man.
You gonna beat that up? You know what I'm saying? Hold up. Ain't never get the gunshots to come through the right way. I don't know, but I'm shooting anyway, goddamn. But like, I always look at things like in terms of problems, solutions, and opportunities. You know what I'm saying? Human beings, based on their behaviors, participate or contribute to one of those three things. You know what I'm saying? You got people that cause problems.
Yep.
The people that cause problems, they generally are meant to cause problems, and then they can justify it with some of the most asinine reasons. You know what I'm saying, to do so, and it be founded on nothing but pure emotion and optics. You know, and then you got solutions. There's people that want to solve the problem.
Yes.
And then the opportunities that come within that is still split between opportunistic people and then people that see a vantage point that want to solve the problem. You know what I'm saying? Because that becomes split again too.
Right.
So when you really break that down, and I put it in thirds, you know what I'm saying? Because only a third of the people gonna fix everything.
Right.
Or either a third of the people gonna be the major cause of the problem, depending on what end of the spectrum you're gonna be in on. You know what I'm saying? Because that's why I operate on most things that I say between the discipline and undisciplined is based off the 80-20 rule. You know what I'm saying? I think that's the most fair situation because less than 20% of the people cause 80% of the problems that we deal with.
Which is crazy. Right.
Which is so crazy, but it's so consistent that like it seems like a phenomenon in the present until you go back and you look at this book and say, hey, you know, they had the same problems. You know what I'm saying? It was only documented in 1957 and published. How much observation was involved before somebody said, you know what, man, we got to write this shit down because ain't nobody gonna believe this shit. Ain't nobody gonna understand what the hell I'm talking about. They gonna think they had to be hated back then. You know what I'm saying? Every generation has a truth teller.
Yep.
And we're this generation's truth teller, and we document it in much different ways now, because you know what I'm saying, with the video context that we got now. Because
Right,
even
right.
just 5 years ago, this wasn't easy to do. You had to have like 3 or 4 different platforms synced up together, some software. Your mics got to be right. You know what I'm saying? And now you just log in and send a link, and then we sit up and we had this conversation. So what are
Right.
we doing with all this technology, all of this information, and all of these resources, and these different perspectives from different geographies? Because like, we didn't grow up together, but we got the same curiosity about the same thing.
Yeah. Same
And
shit.
and so, which goes back to, you know, let me pull the book out. You know what I'm
Go
saying?
ahead, show me book.
Yeah, yeah.
Show off that book.
Hey, look, like, you folks that's watching this, let me get the glare off of it. You see the badge. Follow the YouTube channel. It says Accountable Masculinity University. Go get the book. It highlights 5 principles that's in line with the black bourgeoisie that I had no idea about, because that's what's so dope about it, is that,
Right.
you know what I'm saying, it's modern and it fits everything that we're talking about. We're talking
Yep.
about the behavior of our people that look like us, that I've been saying we got clones. Like, even that movie, they clone Tyrone. The clone in our community is the people that look like us, but they behave in a destructive manner,
Yeah.
which is clearly always been an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to fit in, having an inferiority complex, thinking that we gotta please everybody, thinking that we gotta compete with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think that we could defeat that. You know what I'm saying? Honestly, all I think we could do is talk about it and then unite the people that feel the same way that we feel. Because now you don't have to go align yourself with people that don't respect you.
Right.
That's a choice at this point. But
Well,
without,
that's how you defeat it, Vic. What you just said.
yeah, I get it. Like, everything I'm talking about is, it's a double-edged sword. You know what I'm saying? You defeat it by everybody getting on one side of the sword.
Right. Like the right people with the right minds. All
Yep,
right, let's bond together. So the thing is, we've always been told that the black bourgeoisie was some type of evil organization.
sure was. Yeah, it was
Not
always about, yeah.
not the case. Not the case here. Now that we see what they were doing and why they did that,
We need to put it in the right context.
we can understand.
Yep,
Yeah.
because the same thing that most black people that may not know about the black bourgeoisie, they've had condemning narratives towards those that think differently than them.
Right.
So if we told those people why your behavior or your angst or your disdain for the educated class, the philanthropists, and you know what I'm saying, that fit every behavior that we are talking about,
Mm-hmm.
and the revolutionaries, we have to be the revolutionaries from an intellectual state of being.
Right. Right.
You can't just go put on a bulletproof vest and convince people.
No.
You have to do it from levels like this. And um that's where I get down into, like, everybody can't go because everybody don't want to hear it, bro. Then they don't have to, because all they're doing is choosing a side. They're choosing a side that makes them feel comfortable in their own skin, and at their own glass ceiling and limitations. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. Right.
I'm not satisfied right there, bro. I
Mm-hmm.
can't do it. I can't do it.
What's the rule with, they say, you know, what is it? Prayer without
Faith
pr-
without works is dead.
faith without works is dead. Okay. So let's think about that on a human level. Okay. So the way that you would phrase that on a human level is,
Yes.
I can't help those who don't want to help themselves.
I don't talk to people. I don't give advice to people that don't have their hands raised.
Right. You know what I'm saying? At
That'll
the,
make
at,
you a
the, at the
Jehovah
end of the
Witness.
day,
You
at the end
already
of the
got.
day,
You might well be a Jehovah Witness, just knocking
look,
on.
I witnessed something today. You know, there was a disturbing video that went around in my city of young boys who were, showing people who were strung out on drugs, and they were kind of forcing them to cry to give them drugs. So they would force them to fake cry to give them drugs. It was silly as shit, right? So there was a person that spoke against it, which she had all right to speak against that. But I saw, there was a dialogue and there was an argument being made. And what I realized is that this woman who was speaking against it was a high level learner.
Hmm.
And the people who were for what these young boys were doing were low level learners. So I was like, you know what? I'm reading the comments underneath this whole story and I'm seeing that it's about to get violent. And you said this, Vic. You said this before. Don't argue with low level learners because if you argue with low level learners, you're going to get hurt. Stop talking to low level learners. Don't argue with low level learners.
They
Don't
don't have the
debate
same
with low
game
level.
plan. They don't have the same game plan. They don't want what you want.
No, no, they don't. They are willing to crash out over the dumbest shit.
Period.
Over the dumbest shit, period.
It
So
ain't worth it.
once again, we see once again, I get why the black bourgeoisie had got a bad rep. They did some wrong things. They're not perfect in this whole situation,
But
right?
their intent was something else.
Their intent was to stay away from low level learners that had no ambition, that did not respect education, that did not have drive. That's what that intent was, to stay away from that. We are reproducing within ourselves. And by doing that, by reproducing within ourselves and not allowing this lower class to come in, we are guaranteeing that our families and our legacies go off to do greater and better things until it's almost $1 billion status or billionaire status. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, they did some bad things, understood, but they did some things that made sense. And I think we need to learn from that. I think we need to say, okay, well, I don't want to say for the mentors and the people out here helping um youth in fucked up situations. I don't want to say that, oh, well, don't do that. I don't want to see, because there's going to be that Jay-Z. There's going to be that LeBron. There's going to be that exception to the rule, right?
Exception.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So at the you have, if you're mentoring out here or you're teaching these kids, you have to be able to identify that. You have to be able to identify, okay, this kid is special. They coming up in fucked up situations, but this kid is special. Perhaps put more energy in this kid to make sure that they get where they need to go.
Right.
But if you got a kid, let's say you're a teacher or principal or counselor, and you got a kid that's got 150 absences, you know what I'm saying? And every time they do come to school, they come to school to completely wreak havoc and fuck everybody else's day up.
Yeah.
You have to say to yourself, you know what?
Yeah. You
I,
gotta
I
wash your hands of it.
I can't sacrifice the rest of these kids for this one dumb motherfucker.
You can't.
I can't do it. You know what I'm saying? I can't do it. You know what I'm
So
saying?
so while I got my comment up, because I don't have a slide for the rule number 5, but I'm gonna pull up the different rules as we go, right? I
Yeah.
want you to talk about how the black bourgeoisie and rule number 5 on the screen, like how did that connect for you?
Men have to exercise sexual discipline to secure their credibility within the culture as credible leaders. Okay, so when see, this is dynasty 1. Okay, this is when the mulattoes had it, nobody else had it. Their sexual discipline was of the highest level. So that there was no sleeping around. Everything was based on, you know, everything was based on one partner. You know what I'm saying? One wife, one wife, one husband. Everything was based on that. You don't reach out to anything else, because with sexual discipline, you can build so much on top of that. So to give you an example, if you have a man or a woman, for that man, or let's just say a pair, or a couple who have built a dynasty worth $10 million, and both individuals are sexually disciplined, and there are no kids out here that are unaccounted for, or there's no women or men out here that those individuals slept with, what are the possibilities? The possibilities are endless because there's nothing there to take you off the path. There's nothing there to take you off the path. So at the end of the day, that $10 million only builds because we have 100% trust in each other. So when you have a married couple, you have one brain, you have one soul. It's one entity. That's why it's in the Bible, it's in the Quran. It's one person, literally. But when you introduce cheating in there, this
Infidelity.
infidelity, there's no longer that one person because there's going to be a side that doesn't trust the other. Just imagine your brain. Not what happens when your brain doesn't trust itself. When I say, or Vic says, I want to be a millionaire, and then in your brain you get doubt. That's your brain working against itself. So it can't be productive. It can't be 100% efficient because it's your brain working against the same thing when it comes to infidelity. So this is the reason why these men and women practice the highest level of sexual discipline. Is because if you practice that highest level of sexual discipline, then you are one brain, you are one entity, you are working as one. There's no distrust there. There's no distrust there.
I
So
like
at the
that.
end so at the end of the day, if there's no distrust there, you could be more productive. Now, let's say that one of the individuals go out here and they, you know, they do what they do. Like I said, that trust disappears. And like I said, that's the brain working against itself. Now I have doubt. Now do I really want to build with this man? Because he went out here and got this low level person pregnant? Or do I want to trust this woman because she got pregnant by a low level person? Do I want to put 100% trust in it? No, you don't want to put 100% trust in that person.
No,
You really don't. You know what I'm
because
saying? That rule number 5, sexual discipline, can heal a nation. It can heal our nation overnight. It really can. And I respect the fact that in this book, you're coming from a place of saying that it's up to the men to be that. Stop being sluts out here, fellas. Yeah, men can be sluts, men can be hoes. Stop doing that. It's time that we have to stop that. We're behind. We're behind right now. So we can't afford to be that.
how important do you think a man can call himself masculine if he doesn't have any sexual discipline?
No, you can't call yourself masculine if you don't have any sexual discipline. Hell no. You
Okay.
can't at all. Okay, so I always tell people to refer to the Sphinx. What is the riddle of the Sphinx? When you look at the Sphinx, you look at Egypt altogether. Let's say Kemet, for the people who refer to it as Kemet. If you look at Kemet and you look at the hieroglyphs and you look at the paintings, you look at the drawings, you look at the carvings, you always see a human body with an animal head, correct?
Yep.
When you look at the Sphinx, it's backwards. It's a animal body with a human head. And what the Sphinx riddle is it's the human mind coming out of the beast mentality. That is the human mind defeating beast mentality. So you're doing things and you have a moral compass that is so just and so beautiful that you defeat the beast within yourself. Because let's just be honest, being sexually undisciplined is that of an animal.
It's
That
primitive.
is it's primitive. It's a primitive way of thinking.
It's no different than a stray animal
Hello?
because bugs. Well, a friend of mine, like shout out to my friend uh I can't Star Parham. She said
Mhm.
even water beetles have sexual discernment.
Right. Hmm.
We know countless animals throughout the animal kingdom know that there's a time and place for all of this. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? When it comes down to it. So yeah, if they got dominion over their sexual urges, and we're supposed to be the higher level species in terms of being human, then we have to figure out how to apply sexual discipline to what we do every day. Because I the reason I wrote that is because it's simple. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right.
That's really what
Absolutely.
discipline is knowing the difference. So I want to start running through these, right? I'm gonna pull up rule number 4.
Mhm.
And I want you to tie that to everything that you saw on the Black Bourgeoisie.
Okay, legacy and equity. Live a life of service towards your community and others. You must be credible and capable of both mentoring and being mentored. You must be receptive and coachable. Okay. once again, this is what the black bourgeoisie believed in. They believed in a life of service towards their community. They believed in that. That's why they were so tight knit and they were so standoffish with everyone else. They wanted to make sure that their ideology and their culture was so well intertwined and taught that it couldn't be defeated. It couldn't be in any way invaded. Like there was a certain mind that had to come to that. You know what I'm saying? And when you say you must be credible, once again, that goes back to rule 5. You know, your sexual discipline makes you credible
Yep.
because we look at a person as great as Martin Luther King and we see that he
Talk,
lacked sexual discipline.
talk about it.
And
Tell,
didn't after we found that out, didn't we start taking down his credibility?
yep.
Because when you start talking about MLK now, even with the movie that they came out with, now there's this sexual undisciplined aspect to MLK that we now have to question and say, well, was he the man that he really thought he was? That we really thought he was? Because at one point we had MLK at almost prophet level.
He was a prophet.
Right. Now you look at him like, okay, we know he's a man now. Look at how that tarnished his credibility.
He was a
Just
Migo with a Bible.
bro, you look at him, you look at Jesse Jackson, how great of a man that he was. Okay. We looked at how great of a man he was. You got this child that he made that didn't nobody know about. You ain't seen Jesse since.
At all.
You
At all. Yeah,
know what I'm saying? You
true.
ain't seen Jesse since.
I'm gonna move on down the line. We're gonna go to rule number 3. And let me get this up right here. Boom. There you go.
Okay. Okay. So decentralized leadership requires knowing when to lead and when to follow, must avoid misrepresenting fellow men. Although we are not perfect, we must have redeeming. Okay. So
Redeeming efforts. That's the
Okay.
he got cut off.
Okay. So this right here, is one rule where requires knowing when to lead and when to follow. So Black Bourgeoisie, the actual book doesn't really go into this rule per se.
Mhm.
Though this is an important rule, and I would like for you to explain to the people what you meant by this. Um, if you would break it down for us.
Okay, decentralized leadership, knowing when to lead and when to follow, is basically like if Cavi has the floor in
Hmm.
this scenario, and he's got something to say that's important to say, I gotta let Cavi talk
Okay.
because just because, like, yeah, I might have a platform, but I gotta be able to be receptive and coachable, like we talked about on the other joint, right? And the
Absolutely.
legacy piece of it,
Hmm.
because the mark of a great leader comes from how well he can follow.
Right.
You can't learn to lead if you don't know how to follow.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
So the rule number 3 part is like submitting to a higher understanding.
Hmm.
And once you submit to a higher understanding, it's supposed to affirm why you are in the space that you're in.
Hmm.
You got invited here. Like you wouldn't be here if you couldn't represent the platform correctly, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Because this is like a pivot point for rule number 4. You notice there's a buildup.
Hmm.
On each one of these, it compounds on something. That's why I'm going backwards. Because rule number 5 is pretty much to me the most important.
That's the most important. Right. Of course. Right.
Because You build and destroy families and communities with rule number 5.
Yes.
But
Yes.
but
Go
the
back to real number 5 so they can see it again. Because
let me,
you
let
need
me
to
pull it.
you need to hammer that
Yeah.
forward. They need
Once
to
you,
know what you're talking about.
once you see it, you can't unsee it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And like the sexual discipline piece is a very, very simple sentence. Men must exercise sexual discipline to secure their credibility within the culture as credible leaders, because it's the
Right.
easiest way to get yourself discredited if you
Yes.
don't practice it. You know what I'm saying? They
Yes.
throw out everything that you represent, right?
This is the
So
beast. This is the
then,
beast.
and so now you bring that back and then you tie that in rule number 3, knowing when to lead and when to follow, must avoid misrepresenting fellow men. If you misrepresent fellow men, there's a couple ways you could do that completely and just destroy all of your credibility.
Mm-hmm.
And rule number 5 will get you out of there. You know what I'm saying? We can't trust you to follow, because when we need to depend on you, if you tied up between the wrong legs, then we can't depend on you.
Can't depend on you. Right.
And so we can't depend on you to lead, and we can't depend on you to follow either.
If your wife can't depend on you, I
If
can't
you if
depend
your
on you.
wife can't depend on, if the person you lay down with can't depend on you, then how am I going to be able to trust you? This is a trust factor.
This is the trust factor.
So
Right.
I got to trust you to allow me to be the best version of myself and take care of all of us.
Right.
But I can't discredit what we're doing, because I got a primitive urge that I need to go satisfy in the worst case scenario. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not fair to the overall, you know what I'm saying,
No.
which goes back to the black bourgeoisie of them having a class separation based on behavior.
Right.
If you are sexually undisciplined, you probably can't do this. You probably can't do rule number 3.
Right.
You'll find a way to throw someone in the same class as you under the bus for short-term gratification.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
And it's written this way intentionally. You know what I'm saying? All right. So let me move on to rule number 2. It's coming up.
Okay, rule number 2: we don't argue with women. Women have their own issue, and so do men. We can learn to mitigate our issues by observing the conflict management skills of women. Okay, so that would probably go into the whole culture of the first dynasty of black bourgeoisie, right? Because you had a high level of logical men in that culture. So I can see them doing this just by being high level logical men, high level educated logical men. You know, when you argue with a woman, and I think every man sees this. When you argue with a woman, for one thing, it is said that you will never win an argument with a woman. For
And there's
one
no
thing.
value even if you do win it.
Right. There's no value even if you do win it. Even if you do win it, she's not going to accept that you won the argument. So it's no point in arguing. It's wasted energy. It's wasted energy. And like you said, we can learn to mitigate our issues by observing the conflict management skills of women. You know, that's some deep shit right there, bro.
Yeah, because if you got to sit back, because if we could learn, like let's just say it, the reason I wrote it this way, there's room for women to solve their own problems
Right.
if they want to.
Right.
But patterns and outcomes say they don't do that.
No.
Not without masculine presence,
Right.
intervention, and us being a buffer, you know what I'm saying, between that, you know.
Right. Right.
So if you're going to be focused on the right thing, one of the things you cannot do is waste your energy and your intellectual brain power on arguing with women, because generally speaking, arguing is unproductive,
It is.
regardless of gender.
Right.
Whatever arguing with women is for men is even below that.
Right.
Okay.
Right. 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 Man, have you ever asked yourself going to rule number two, back to rule number two here while it's
I
still
guess.
here, you know, men, have you ever asked yourselves? I mean, think about it, fellas. Have you really asked yourselves and said, have I ever had a productive argument with a woman? This
And that's
rule number
fun.
two is heavy because it just makes all the sense. It makes all the sense. And then I've told you this before, Vic. You know, I love this rule because what you witnessed from the older men when we were kids, our grandfathers, great grandfathers, whoever, is they didn't argue with women. They were very quiet. They were very quiet men. When
Quiet,
they
quiet
spoke
assertive.
when they spoke when they needed to speak, but they were very quiet men. So, and even when you talk to them about arguing with women, they would tell you these lessons. That's pointless, son. It don't even make any sense to do that. Let her get whatever she got to get off of her chest
And move
and
around.
give her some time. She'll get over
Yep.
it.
Yep. Yep.
Right. So
So
yeah.
I'm gonna move on to rule number one
All
because this is
right.
the last one. You know what I'm saying? Because you had to count them down. You know what I'm saying?
Men focus on men. Personal accountability standards amongst reasonable men without degrading women to improve our society. Yes, bro. This is why the book is so beautiful, and this is why what you're saying is so beautiful. People that go ahead, show that book off again,
They
bro.
go to book. They go to book. Right
Get that glade. Okay, I was
there.
about to get that
There
glade.
we go. I get the mail for that thing. Go get the book.
Right,
It's in the
right.
caption. The links are in the caption. But go ahead, man.
Men focus on men. Period. Personal accountability. What problems do we have that we can fix?
Yep.
Study yourself. That is a painful process, studying yourself and saying, okay, what am I terrible at? And what can I improve on? I had to tell myself, a while back, I said, you know what? I had some brothers that cared to tell me things about myself that I needed to hear. Hey, you need to stop procrastinating. You got beautiful, you got wonderful, beautiful, genius level talent and a whole lot of things. The only thing that holds you back is procrastination. When you want to do something, do it. That's why I'm up with you at 1:50 in the morning right now, Eastern
Necessary.
Eastern time.
And I'm right
It's
here with you.
necessary.
And
Right, right, right. And see, putting myself around people like you, Vic, because I know you're driven. Feed off that energy. Because when you're told by a person that, hey, just this procrastination from you, bro. This is the only thing holding you from being the greatest man that you could possibly be. You know what I'm saying? Practice, work on that. Practice. It don't matter how small the task is, Kavik, do it. You know what I'm saying? Don't matter how small. You have to be known as dependable to everyone. So when someone asks you to do something and you agree to doing it, make sure you fucking do it.
yep.
It don't matter if it make 10 cent. It don't matter if it make 5 cent. Don't matter if it make zero. Did you say you were going to do it? If you say you're going to do it, do it.
Show
So
up.
I love this. Right, right. Like you said, show up. So rule number one, men focus on men, personal accountability. I pride myself on that. Personal accountability. Vic, you pride yourself on that, bro. This is what makes great men. Personal accountability. You gotta have that. If you're not accountable for your actions, bro, what are you?
You ain't masculine.
You damn sure ain't masculine. That's the most feminine shit.
Yeah.
Is not to be accountable. That's the
Account-
most feminine shit.
accountability is what makes a man masculine.
Yeah,
But accountability doesn't exist without discipline.
absolutely.
Because accountability without discipline is just a performance. And like, and to put it in the right context, because people say you need to take accountability, but they don't necessarily understand what that means. A
Right,
person with no discipline doesn't have the same interpretation of the word accountability.
right,
Being accountable is a way of life.
right,
So you can't be undisciplined and then tell somebody they got to take accountability. You got to lead a disciplined life for it even to be effective.
right. Absolutely.
Uh, and if you can't teach it to nobody, It's because you're not practicing it. Because it
Right.
should be easy to discuss. Like when you it's like that. Like if you talk to your kids and they do something crazy or something suspect, you like, I taught you better than that.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's like I taught you better than that. You know better than that.
Mm-hmm.
And accountability is the ability to chastise yourself
Right.
before you actually act on it. You chastise yourself because of how you're thinking,
Right.
not what you're doing.
Right.
Just like you gave that whole spiel just then about like Cavett, you got a beautiful mind about what you need to do, and it just takes you actually acting on it. You know what I'm saying?
That's it. Yeah.
And accountability is acting on what you said based on the discipline that you walk around with every day.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you do in your off time is your character.
Mm-hmm.
What you do on the clock is your responsibility,
Exactly.
your duty. You know what I'm saying? And like police officers could be crooked, doctors can be crooked in terms of character, but
Right.
when they clock in, they got to do the best version of their job just so they don't get fined. You know what I'm saying?
I love how you put that. What are you doing off the clock? You know.
That's what you do
Yeah.
because we all know some functioning addicts.
Yeah.
They can show up high, perform better than the person that's sober
Yeah.
because they technically proficient and they got the muscle memory to still do the job no matter what they're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, like you born with talent.
Right.
Repetition turns it into a skill.
Right.
Discipline turns that into a weapon
Yes.
because you can pull it out and use it at your will. But if you're undisciplined, you use that weapon to hurt other people.
Right.
When you discipline, you use that weapon to win conflicts that matter. You
Mm-hmm.
know how to pick and choose your battles. Because there's only two mindsets: you either disciplined or undisciplined.
Repeat that.
You only got two mindsets: you either disciplined or undisciplined. And
It's as
even in
simple as that.
whether you're in the Bible or the Quran, you're either holy or unholy. You're either right or wrong.
Yep.
And that's just what it is. That's what discipline is. It's like knowing better and doing better.
Right.
Knowing better is just you know the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Doing better is the choice that you make based off your discipline and your character.
Right.
You can't make progress without discipline. You can't achieve anything that's sustainable without discipline.
Mm-hmm.
So rule number one, the personal accountability standards has discipline built into it. Because you can't talk about accountability with no discipline. Nobody gonna
Nope.
take you serious.
No. No.
You can't. You can't have your cake and eat it too. And you can't live an 80% undisciplined life and then expect to be regarded as a disciplined person.
No.
If 80% of the time you performing negative behaviors, nobody's gonna trust you.
Nope.
You ain't dependable.
Why would I trust you?
Why? Why? Man, we covered a lot of ground in just an hour and 13 minutes, man. That's
Yeah, went straight to
yeah, yeah.
it.
There's a lot of information, man. Like, where you want to go from here, man? Because like we can shut it down.
We'll
Um,
shut it down for the day and we're gonna jump back on tomorrow with something totally different.
I'm completely with it, man. So
Yeah, you said you
um,
had free time. I got free time, bro. So, like I
let's
said,
do
we
it.
can shut it down.
Yeah, man. So, hey, to all of the viewers that are not here because of the hours that we on, you gonna see this again because I'm gonna rebroadcast it. We're gonna clip it up, and I'm gonna see you backstage, man. But I don't even know what to call this. But tonight we breaking the slave mindset, and I think this is one of the first segments that we're gonna have in this. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
one segment because we can continue to break the slave mindset, man. Because it's a whole lot with this, bro. It really is a whole lot with this that we
Yeah,
can go with, because it's a lot of people out here that don't know how to break it. They really don't know how to break it. They have no clue how they can get past this. You know what I'm saying? So yeah,
you got to make a decision, and you got to make a choice, And you either got, and the decision you make is going to be an undisciplined decision or a disciplined decision.
Yeah.
And for those of you trying to figure out exactly how to go about doing it, here's another book you should check out. You know what I'm saying?
Why don't you ever advertise the code? I like that book.
Well, because the discipline is here first.
Okay.
The code is like the pointed topics. The
Mm-hmm.
code is similar to the Black Bourgeoisie.
Show that
And
code book. The artwork on this, bro. I love it.
the code, the artwork on this
I
thing,
bought it just off the artwork.
hey man, I kind of slapped the cover together, you know what I'm saying? Because I wanted it to be very cryptic and and with a lot of symbolism. And
Right.
it's three sets of hands linked together and one united vision, which is similar to the Black Bourgeoisie. You know
That's
what I'm
dope.
saying?
That's dope.
And the Matrix background is just the boundary of what we have to operate against. You know what I'm saying? So we still have to perform in unison here, you know, but the boundaries of what we can't control, we recognize that this is what's against us, you know what I'm saying, in terms of the Matrix background.
Right.
And we have to use our environment to our advantage. And so that's what that's about, you know what I'm saying? The symbology of it is because there's some stuff that we don't own, we can't control, can't do anything about.
Right.
But that's where the discipline piece comes in, to be able to say, yeah, I know we can't do anything about it the way that we would like to.
Right.
But what we have to do is preserve the talent, the intellectual brain power, and the resources amongst the people that care about solving the problem first.
Yep.
And if you can't, because like I can identify the problem, that like if I tell you there's a lion over there,
Mm-hmm.
we need to know what a lion is at all times.
Mm-hmm.
But if you turn your back on it and then the lion eats you up, you got to take accountability of that. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
So there's a lot of pointed topics in the code that pivot off of before I'd even called it that, because I published that book in 2018. And it was just basically off of like social media posts. And I talked a lot about R. Kelly and Bill Cosby in there. And that was before I even had a definition for sexual discipline. And I wasn't even on board with what they was doing back then.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? In terms of
Right.
that space.
Yeah,
And
look at that. You just, and I know we're about to end this, but look at that. Look at Bill Cosby and the greatness of Bill Cosby. Who that was.
Rule number 4, thrown all the way out of there. You know what I'm saying?
Throw it
Legacy
out
and
of there.
equity.
It's
Gone.
all gone. You know
It's
what I'm
all
saying?
gone.
Just off of rule number 5, not being sexually disciplined.
Come on, man.
Bro,
Hey,
rule number 5 is that's the pillar. That's
it
the
really
number one
is.
pillar.
That's
That's the foundation.
that's the worst self-inflicted wound that you can have.
There's so many brothers that don't want to hear it though, because they so selfish and so stuck in their way. Oh man, ain't no man is supposed to be with just one woman, man.
You know, and I take it a step further. They get offended by it because it fit their behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only people talking about what poly is supposed to be is like that segment I had is men that already got kids with a bunch of different women.
Yeah. And you in a poly situation anyway.
Yeah.
Just with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So eventually, you know what I'm saying, we'll get down to it, and there's gonna be a couple more literature pieces that we can throw in here that we can expand on. But you see how powerful the 5 rules are, you know what I'm saying? And how it's transcended time, because behavior is a time traveling thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They had the same problems in 1957 that we're discussing right now in 2024. and it's crazy, you know what I'm saying, without having any knowledge of, you know what I'm saying, that book, the words within it. And I got a lot today off the information that you shared with me. And now, we kind of got to put our stamp, you know what I'm saying, on it as well, in our own way. That way it doesn't have to hide for as long as it did.
Nah, bro, this needs to come out. This needs to come out. That book needs to be shared amongst a whole lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Because, when we're looking at 67 years of no progress, that's a problem.
It's our fault at this point.
Right.
It's our fault. So Well, with that being said, hey, good night. I'm gonna see you backstage, and then we'll go from there and let's continue the strategy and figure out what we're gonna do next, bro.
All right.
See.
Peace.